Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about uh CM Punk and the future of him in in the WWE and particularly in AEW. CM Punk is the most, I think, in my opinion anyway, is the most sought after free agent in professional wrestling nowadays, and it has been that way since 2014. Um, and if he did go to AEW, I think a match with him and Kenny Omega would set the wrestling world on fire. As we saw a couple of weeks ago with Sting, when Sting left the WWE to go to AEW, it set the wrestling world on news on fire. And then Kenny Omega appears on Impact, and we get news that Kenny and Impact Wrestling is working together with AEW. And that's really unprecedented because never before in the history of wrestling have two major companies ever worked together. And I use the word major loosely as it relates to Impact Wrestling because, well, Impact Wrestling to me hasn't really been a major organization in many years. But the fact is, they do have a sizable audience on Twitch. And at one time, when they were called TNA, they were considered the number two promotion, kind of like where AEW is now. So them working together is unprecedented, and Sting is a star to the Impact audience. I mean, yes, and yes, ECW and WWF did work together in the 90s, and ECW and USWA worked together in the early 90s, and ROH worked together with TNA in the early 2000s. But again, uh, ROH was more like an indie. USWA was more like a territorial promotion. ECW was more like an indie. So, but if they were able to get CM Punk on the roster for AEW to work together with Kenny Omega, kind of like, or get CM Punk to be a representative of Impact Wrestling, um, sorry guys, got earplugs. Get CM Punk to be a representative of Impact Wrestling, and um and I mean Kenny Omega, excuse me, Kenny Omega to be a representative of Impact Wrestling against CM Punk defending AEW. So it'd be kind of like an interpromotional war in the same way that WCW and NWO was in the 90s. That could really set the wrestling world on fire and get the wrestling world talking because this is what smaller companies like AEW and Impact and Ring of Honor and PWG need to do in order to combat the monopoly that is the WWE in American professional wrestling. They need to work together. So the fact that Impact and AEW working together is a really good step in the right direction for professional wrestling promotions because it shows that they're willing to combat their efforts, uh, um, combine their efforts to combat WWE. That's what wrestling promotions tried to do in the 1980s with AWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, World Class Championship Wrestling, and Continental. They tried to come together with the Super Clash but it didn't really work out. The selfishness of the promoters, but they could do an angle where CM Punk comes in and is a secret weapon of sorts of Cody Rhodes to combat Kenny Omega's taking of the title to Impact. Why I say CM Punk is perfect for this? Because if you guys remember, in Ring of Honor, when CM Punk was about to leave Ring of Honor, um, he tried to take the Ring of Honor title to WWE when he was about to leave Ring of Honor in 2006. And then he threatened to do the exact same thing in 2011 with the WWE title when he dropped his pipe bomb. And then he really did leave the WWE in 2014 and he went to the UFC. So he's perfect to do this interpromotional type war thing with Kenny Omega. If you want to have a primary antagonist against Kenny Omega in an interpromotional war between Impact and Ring of Honor, Impact and AEW, the guy you need is CM Punk. You need that unpredictability of CM Punk and that realism, that shoot realism of CM Punk. He's the guy you need. He's the guy that could pull it off. This was a guy who signed a WWE contract on the Ring of Honor title back in 2006. He was the guy that dropped the pipe bomb. He's the guy in the modern era that's able to skirt between reality and the reality of the real world and the fantasy of wrestling. He's the one. So if you want to do this interpromotional war between Impact and AEW, you need CM Punk. He's the guy. You know, and WWE doesn't have anything to combat it. You know, what they're doing right now with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, that's not going to be good enough. You need CM Punk. You need CM Punk. He was the guy that ushered in the reality era of professional wrestling back in 2011. And he was doing it, like I said before, when he was in the Ring of Honor. He was doing that too, and he could do it. He could be the representative of AEW against Kenny Omega and Cyrus, the Jackal. He could do it. I think CM Punk is the guy. Let me know. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that CM Punk should sign with AEW? Because they need some big names, some big, more modern names. I mean, Sting is a big, huge name, but unfortunately, Sting's run in WWE was so shitty in 2015 that that's what he'll be remembered for. The guy that Seth Rollins put out of the business. I don't think WWE will brag on that Seth Rollins did that, because that was an accident. But especially with Jon Moxley out of the picture because of Renee Young's pregnancy, they need some more big names in the independent. In the main event scene in AEW. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Peace.